Hello and welcome to the local campaign helping voters make informed choices in the upcoming municipal election. I'm your host, Jeff Pickle from 570 News. Tonight we have Cambridge Ward 1 debate. Cambridge's first ward makes up the entire northern portion of the city. The north is bordered by the township of Woolwich, to the east by Guelph, Eramosa Township. The southern border is made up by the Speed River in the southeast and a combination of Langs Drive, Eagle Street North, and the township of North Dumfries in the southwest. On the ward's western border is the city of Kitchener. Ward 1 contains the Blair Road neighborhood and much of Preston. It also includes the Toyota Motor Manufacturing Facility and Riverside Park. The candidates vying for council seats are Peter Crystal, Stuart Allen, Clifford Van Cleef, incumbent Donna Reed, Kevin Hebert, Cliff Eggleton, and Ryan O'Hagan. Speaking order was drawn before the debate, so here with opening remarks, and we will give a minute for opening remarks. To begin the evening is Peter Crystal.
Hello, Cambridge. My name is Peter Crystal, and I'm running for your Ward 1 councillor. I have lived in Cambridge for over 50 years, as have two family generations before me. I am proud of and passionate to the city I have been able to call my home. I am a devoted husband and father raising two children in our city. I am also a proud local business owner for the past 28 years in our community. Cambridge citizens have told me loud and clear they want change. They want more transparency, better communication, accountability, and fiscal responsibility from their municipal government. Peter Crystal represents integrity and change. You need a councillor who is honest, forthright, accessible, and works for you. I believe in transparency and engaging the citizens in open discussion to ensure the democratic process is working.
Excellent. And up next will be Stuart Allen.
Good evening, Cambridge. My name is Stuart Allen. I'm running for council in Ward 1. As you gather from my accent, I have been in Cambridge since I arrived here in 1974. I'm growing accustomed to this city. I like this city. And in '82, I started my own business. I've been a member of the local Chamber of Commerce for several years. God, I'm getting nervous here. Not used to looking at cameras. Usually on the other side of them, sorry. I've been volunteering in and around Cambridge. I've been participating in a lot of the efforts to accommodate the original. Hi.
A few more.
So winding up, vote for me. I can't talk better when I'm not nervous. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. On next to Clifford Van Cleef.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to today's ward debate. As mentioned, my name is Clifford Van Cleef, and together with my wife, Meredith, and our three children, we proudly call Cambridge our home. The skill set I bring to the table as your ward councillor has been shaped through my experience as current president of Active Cambridge, past vice chair of the Hessler Business Improvement Association, past management committee member for Better Cambridge, and other city advisory committees. Furthermore, over the last 15 years as co-owner of the Hub Bicycle Shop with my wife Meredith, located in Hessler, I have evolved my ability to work with large budgets, manage business operations, establish short-term and long-term visions for the business, and exceed customer expectations. During tonight's debate, I will share with you my vision for Cambridge, and I would like to earn your trust and earn your vote on October 22nd. Thank you.
And next we have Donna Reed.
Thank you and good evening. My name is Donna Reed and I have been your Ward 1 councillor for the past 8 years. I have worked hard to bring age-friendly city designation to Cambridge with good results. Through the Cambridge Council on Aging, we are working with staff, we have advanced towards that designation. It is a fact, when a city serves its infants to its eldest, it is good for everybody. The city now has a diversity strategy that I had been proposing since being elected in 2010. It will guide us as we improve inclusion of women, racial minorities, and members of the LGBTQ community. There are significant challenges ahead for our city. I am confident that my experience and skills will be put to good use as the city struggles with all the issues in front of it.
Thank you. And next we have Kevin Hebert.
Greg, Jeff, and most importantly, my fellow residents of Ward 1. My name is Kevin Hebert. I stand before you humbly this evening requesting your vote this October to be your City Councillor for Ward 1. My neighbours, I will make an excellent councillor. I'm fully bilingual, a married father of 2 fantastic daughters, and a proud homeowner in Preston. I'm active and involved in the community as a worker, as a volunteer, and as a resident. My entire work career has been about delivering service, including 18 years in the information technology industry, where I had the opportunity to grow and lead a successful managed print services company. In addition to creating budgets and leading people, I constantly focused on customer service and how I can make today better than yesterday and tomorrow better than today. Every day, I will work for you because you matter. Thank you. Merci. Gracias. Abar. Obrigado.
Thank you, Kevin. On now to Cliff Eggleton.
Hello, Cambridge. My name is Cliff Eggleton, and I am running for councillor for Ward 1. I believe our city is at a defining moment in its history. And if change does not happen soon, the future will be its past. The question we need to answer is, how do we take our city in a new direction? How do we make it vibrant, inclusive, and safe for everyone? Our city is facing some serious challenges at the present, and change is definitely required. I have been a first responder in this city for 15 of my 25 years as a paramedic, and I have seen the change. I volunteer my spare time coaching yours and my children in Cambridge youth soccer and minor baseball. I really enjoy building their life and team skills. I've been working as a public servant the majority of my professional career. I am also a municipal manager and an emergency service leader. This has taught me how municipal government works and how municipal government does not work. Cambridge residents keep telling me when I'm at their doors that they want change. So with your support, I can help make that change.
Thank you. And finally, Ryan O'Hagan.
Hello, Cambridge. My name is Ryan O'Hagan, and I'm running for Ward 1 Councillor. First, I'd like to thank Rogers for having us here tonight and hosting this debate, and my fellow candidates for participating. We live in a city that has the potential to blossom into the focal point of Waterloo Region. We are unique in that we have 3 distinct cores, each with a waterway flowing through them. We are fortunate to have strong, independent BIAs that, with the help of council, continue to attract people to do business in our core. We're blessed with beautiful heritage buildings, sites, and markers. But most importantly, we have important community spirit. We have powerful neighborhood associations, charitable organizations, and involvement from the community members who genuinely care about our city. However, being a city does not come without its problems. We have, as do globally, a growing crisis with opioid and homelessness, or opioid use and homelessness. Together, we can address all of the issues Cambridge is experiencing over the next 4 years. However, we cannot do that without a change in leadership. Together we can address these issues, and we need a council that will respect and listen to all of your concerns. I hope I get the chance to do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, candidates, for the opening remarks. We're going to begin with the question and answer portion of the debate, so we're going to continue in the order we started with. So the first person to answer will be Stuart Allen. But before we do that, I'll now hand things over to the Cambridge Chamber of Commerce President, Greg DeRocher.
Thank you very much, Jeff. First of all, I want to thank and congratulate each of you for putting your name forward for public office. It's not an easy thing to do. It's not a fun thing always to do, but I believe it's the responsibility of individuals in our community to contribute to our collective welfare. So thank you very much, and good luck on election night. My first question is, do you think our core areas are healthy and successful? If not, what would you do to change that?
And again, we'll begin with Stuart Allen.
There is a lot of issues in the core areas. I know there's a lot of traffic congestion. You take downtown Preston, it's been dug up. We've been limited access from the Blair Road exit with the bridge, the King Street congestion between King Street and Fountain Street. And now we're talking about continuing that down King Street by digging it up section by section over the next several years to do infrastructure work. The area, the city is busting. There is areas that right now are green fields, within the next 2 years are going to be covered in construction, new residences, commercial, industrial, and residential. We're going to be doubling the size of our homes, the population, I would see, in the next several years. So we're going to have to start looking at what we're going to do.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you.
On next to Clifford Van Cleef.
Thank you. I do believe our core areas are healthy. As a business owner in one of our cores, I see firsthand the struggle and the triumphs that small businesses have done on a daily basis. I have watched our downtown cores areas develop a strategy to draw people into the cores. Such events as Candyland in Preston, the farmers markets in Hespeler and Preston are two examples that have gained traction and people are coming to our core. Hespeler's new streetscaping has changed the look and the feel of the core. It has made it brighter and more spacious, which leads to safer and easier pedestrian use. All three BIAs have put a great deal of effort into attracting businesses and people into the core through their marketing events. And as a ward councillor, I would continue to support initiatives to bring people into our cores. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And next we have Donna Reed.
Thank you very much. Well, I serve on the Hespeler BIA, and I really have to say Hespeler is doing extremely well. And part of that is the reasons that people have said, you know, the streetscaping in the core area has brought a lot to that area, and it has made it viable for everyone. And we hope to include even more within that area to bring people to it. The apartment buildings are bringing people there as well. Preston is suffering a bit because of all of the work that has been done with the road system. I'm hoping that they can hang on there in Preston as we continue with their streetscaping. They've waited a long time for that streetscaping and they really need it. And I'm hoping that when it's done, they'll be revitalized. And Galt, well, it needs some help and I'm sure we'll all be there for it as well.
Okay, thank you. Moving on now to Kevin Hebert.
Thank you very much. A very simple answer, yes and no. Yes, ultimately, the cores are healthy and successful because of the people, whether it's the businesses and the local business people that thrive and work hard every day to provide goods and services to the cores, or the residents that live there and shop there. I also say no because, let's face it, there are challenges, particularly in Galt. And I'm going to candidly say that the biggest challenge we have in Galt is fear. And we need to get past fear and get on to solutions. So I finish with saying, yes, they're healthy and secure because we are going to come together as a community and we are going to make our city even better. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now on to Cliff Eggleton.
So yes, I agree with a lot of my opponents here on the positives of our core areas. The streetscaping for sure has been a total improvement in the Hespeler area. Downtown Galt is generally a beautiful spot. We do have issues that would have been raised in Galt. One of the things that does concern me about Galt and their storefront is the vacancy rebate program that the city runs, allowing owners to keep the storefronts empty and getting a tax rebate from the city. That's something that I think definitely needs to be revisited, especially during good economic times, which the city is in right now, giving a tax break to landlords as they wait for the increased real estate prices is a bit of an issue that I'd like to be revisited.
Okay, thank you. Now on to Ryan O'Hagan.
I think it's clear that in a lot of ways our cores are doing well. We know that there were 32 new businesses opened last year, with the vast majority of those 22, I believe, going into Galt. However, it's also difficult to say that everything is perfect. We know that opioid and homelessness issues in Galt are causing fear and they're causing concerns. And addressing that is going to be pivotal to bringing people back to our core areas. I also agree with Cliff Eggleton here. He's made a great comment regarding the rebate program for people who are okay with leaving their real estate unoccupied for a certain amount of time so that they can benefit from a lack of taxes and an increased value later. I think that by reevaluating that process and either possibly removing it completely or reducing the amount of time that they have without that rebate, would ensure that we are seeing more businesses opening up in our cores. I definitely agree that the streetscaping is important, and it's definitely looked amazing in Hespeler, especially recently. However, as Donna said, Preston has waited a long time for theirs, and that is something that needs to be addressed very shortly. Thank you.
Thank you. Now to Peter Crystal.
Oh, yes. Some of our core areas are facing several diverse issues. I mean, obviously, the drug addiction, homelessness, etc. People have indicated to me that they are afraid sometimes to go into the core areas because of these particular issues that we're faced with. The businesses that are there are afraid as well, not only for their own employees, their staff, and they are seeing a reduction in business because of the mass amount of loitering, the drug addiction, and the homelessness that is occurring in these areas. Our core businesses require the city to look towards more positive solutions to address these issues. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Okay, we'll move on to the next question, which has been brought up here in the first round, so a good launching point. The opioid issue is an issue in virtually every municipal agenda, and how to best deal with that issue is no more present than in Cambridge itself. Do you support SIS, or safe injection sites, in our community, particularly in the downtown core areas? And we'll begin the answer of that question with Clifford Van Cleef.
Thank you very much. Yes, not an easy topic to talk about. There's a lot of complex issues, multi-government layers that are wrapped up inside of this. To answer the question, no, I don't support them solely in the downtown locations. We have small downtown cores that are fragile, and we need to work together to find solutions for alternative locations. It may be said that SIS sites or SCS sites save lives to those who visit the clinics, but does it service all the addicted? Over 50% or more of the suspected opioid overdoses were in suburbs of Cambridge and not in the proposed location of our downtown core. Professional and outreach workers in the harm reduction community often speak of stigmatization. By locating an SIS or an SCS in the proposed locations downtown, where Cambridge residents have very clearly said they do not want it, this could only lead to more stigmatization. Instead of SCS, we need to reduce wait times to enter into rehabilitation, take advantage of government programs that will address this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. We now next turn to Donna Reed.
Thank you. Well, that is a burning question that we have in front of us as a council. But there isn't a really good answer for it right now because we have to wait. We have to wait until the provincial government decides what it is that they're going to allow to have happen. They've disallowed the centers, those SIS centers in St. Catharines and other cities. So we don't really know if we're going to be able to do it. Do I believe in harm reduction? Absolutely. I can't stand by as a counselor and watch people die. But you need to know it's not just young people, as we oftentimes think. And my work with the Council on Aging, a lot of those who are suffering from the opioid crisis are people who are older adults who have become hooked because of the pain medications that they're on. So it's a very complex issue that we need to take our time and search through it and find a good answer.
Okay, thank you. Moving next to Kevin Hebert.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Indeed, SIS is a very difficult topic. Let me be very clear. I support people not dying. I support helping people. I can tell you standing here, I am not an SIS expert, so I will not pretend to know what is the right or wrong thing to do. I do know we owe it to all our citizens to do what we can to help them. The reality is services need to be placed where they will be used. And to echo a point that was brought up just earlier, anonymity can be a key component for some people. So having all kinds of attention placed on the sites themselves only further pushes people away from help. And indeed, if we find that folks are needing the services both within the core and without, then we need to look at a solution that will address those issues. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And moving on next to Cliff Eagleton.
So the opioid crisis in Cambridge, obviously this is near and dear to my heart as being a responding paramedic in this city for the years. This is nothing new. This opioid crisis in Cambridge has been growing for the last 5 years. It's now being taken serious by council, but the emergency service workers in the hospitals and all healthcare professionals were trying to warn the people who make decisions way before today that this was a growing problem. So now we find ourselves not doing anything for the last 5 years and having to move forward. Safe injection sites or overdose prevention clinics are nothing new. They have been in Europe for years. Europe has a lot of statistics, they have a lot of studies, peer-supported studies showing the effectiveness. Part of the effectiveness of a safe injection site is the fact that these marginalized people start to realize that somebody cares about their health, and the more they have relationships built, then they start going in for treatment options. That is science, that is based on studies. So I don't think we should put any site anywhere until, one, we solve the problem, which my candidates here said, safety is a huge issue. We have to solve that first, then move forward with them.
On now to Ryan O'Hagan.
Safe injection sites or supervised consumption sites are a Band-Aid solution. And when I say that, I'm not saying it from a point of the fact that we shouldn't have them. In fact, the exact opposite. Like Band-Aids, if you're at home and you cut yourself and you know you need stitches, you first apply a Band-Aid because we recognize that if we bleed out before we get to the hospital, it really doesn't matter how good the doctor is. With that said, supervised injection sites on their own are not a solution. And I don't think you would hear anybody who is a harm reduction advocate say that. In fact, what we need is an additional wraparound services. And we're seeing that with what's opening in Galt right now with the Rapid Access Addiction Center. We are seeing that with what is happening right now with the new shelter that's coming into Cambridge. And these are things that we need to continue to explore. However, it is key to remember that nobody who is dead has ever sought treatment. And if we need to keep people alive until they're ready to do that, then that's something that needs to be made a priority, not only by the municipal government, but by the province and the federal level as well.
Thank you. Now to Peter Crystal.
With regards to SIS sites, I have to respect our current council for putting in place an interim bylaw, putting a temporary hold on such facilities for at least 1 year. As a councillor, I could not support such a venue in our core areas at this time, as I believe this would only be a Band-Aid to the problem, without having full wraparound services for the addiction and mental health issues. This complex problem requires the resources from all levels of government, from federal on down to municipal. I would advocate for a better solution plan, working with the other levels of government for a more effective policy that will protect the safety of our community and provide the necessary care and services for the affected individuals. Thank you.
Thank you. Now to Stuart Allen.
Yeah, as most of my fellow candidates have said, this is a very complex issue and there's no easy answer. The big issue I have seen is that we seem to be importing more and more addicts from across southern Ontario, bringing them in because of the facilities that are already here in Cambridge to accommodate the homeless and give them some assistance. The opioid crisis is partly due to over-addiction, over-distribution of drugs by our medical practitioners. And that, as they're trying to do, is starting to be addressed. But it's the levels of government that need to be involved are way above the local level. We are trying to put a Band-Aid on a national problem, and we just don't have the resources to completely cope with it without provincial and federal funding coming in to take it over. Thank you.
Okay, thank you to the candidates, and I'll hand things back over to Greg for the next question.
Let's move on to a little bit of property tax talk. I've always said that property tax is widely known as the most unfair tax that there is. It's based on the perceived ability to pay rather than the ability to pay. Individuals retire, their income goes way down, and they're now on pension, yet their property taxes continue to rise. What will you do to approach the massive, complex city budget of about $130 million and ensure your one principal responsibility of being an elected official, and that's a good steward of the public purse, is first and foremost?
And we'll begin the answers with Donna Reed.
Thank you for that question. While serving as vice chair of the budget committee, I better have a really good answer for you. And, to me, the budget is a really important document, but it's tied to the priorities that we set. And so we need to, as a council, come together as a team and set those priorities. And that way, once those priorities are set, then we can have staff put numbers to those priorities, and we can look at it and see how far down that set of priorities we are able to proceed. Because it's really important that we understand that property tax, as Mr. DeRocha has said, it's a regressive tax in my mind. And we need to make sure that we don't overburden those people who have difficulty paying that tax.
Thank you. Now to Kevin Hebert.
Thank you very much for that question. Very few of us enjoy paying taxes, though most of us absolutely recognize the necessity. What nobody likes, however, is paying taxes and not feeling that they get absolute great value for their money. And that's where City Council comes in. It is the council's responsibility to set the priorities, and that includes sometimes making difficult decisions. We must never forget when we're representing people that we are not using our money, we are representing them and working with their money. And so any tax increases, particularly tax increases that run over and above the core inflation rate, ought to be easily and demonstrably justified. So that the citizens can understand what they're getting. And with my years of experience in business, setting budgets and meeting budgets and not having the option of whether or not I can draw on drawdown reserves or loans, I made it happen. And that's what I would do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now on to Cliff Eggleton.
Taxes. Nobody likes paying taxes, including myself. And tax relief for the working families is something that we all as a council and as a city has to look at. Having twice or three times the inflation rate as a tax increase from City Council is not an acceptable solution. I am totally understanding that we have a massive $140 million infrastructure debt or deficit that we have to figure out how we're going to handle. And we also have bargaining units and unions that have pre-negotiated increases that may be above the inflation rate. So it's not fair to say to a city council it has to be at an inflation rate because you have pre-negotiated collective agreements that may be above that. But keeping to or close to the inflation rate should be the set goal at the beginning of all budget deliberations. And if there's a big, massive increase, there has to be a really clear explanation of why we're going to do that.
Okay, thank you. Now on to Ryan O'Hagan.
4.5% and $62 is the amount that our taxes went up this year on the average home. Next year, it's slated to be about 5.5%. This is an absolutely unsustainable rate of increase for our taxes. As everybody here has agreed, nobody enjoys paying them. However, we recognize that if we're going to pay them or if we're going to be made to pay them, we'd better be getting something out of it. Frankly, what we need to do as a city, as a council, is balance our needs versus our wants. Right now, we are spending money on various infrastructure projects that many people are arguing simply aren't something that we need at the moment. We are seeing huge issues that we're not properly looking at or properly working towards solving, happening especially in the core areas right now. And we're spending our money in other less savory places, however, although they do look good, and I'm not going to deny that. One of the things that we need to consider doing is looking at land that the city is currently not using but owns. This is land that could be leased out or potentially sold in order to generate tax revenue off of. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now on to Peter Crystal.
Yes, thank you. With regards to taxes and city budgets, I mean, the time has come for us to get back to our grassroots of dealing with the city's day-to-day services. Some residents have told me they don't believe the tax dollars are being spent on the priorities that matter. No more legacy projects. We need to concentrate on the services that are our needs for the city. Our infrastructure deficit, as mentioned, has blossomed into a $140 million deficit and will only continue to grow as community expands. I am committed to working with council and staff to look at adapting a more expeditious plan, not only in trying to maintain city budget and tax increases to the CPI or Consumer Price Index level, but at the same token, repairing our infrastructure at a much more faster pace than what we have been doing. We've been delaying it for way too long. Thank you.
Thank you. Now to Stuart Allen.
Yeah, city taxes. Only thing other than that is death. It's a necessary evil, and I think the taxes that we're charged are exorbitant for what we get in return. To keep increasing it is unsustainable, as has been mentioned. Inflation, we should not be going above the rate of inflation, and we shouldn't be spending more than we're taking in. These legacy projects that we keep seeing coming out of City Hall is something that we shouldn't be involved in as a council. We should be looking at the basics and the necessary services that the constituents require, getting them to them so that they can survive, not that the City Hall looks good at night. Thank you.
Okay, now to Clifford Van Cleef.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the new municipal budget coming in just around the $125 million mark there is it's a massive and a daunting document. How would I approach it? I would approach it in the same way that I approach a budget at our business with any of the boards I have sat on. No one likes tax hikes, but we need to find a balance between the two. I would look at each line item carefully and determine a needs and want ratio. The basic services are essential, and we must pay for those, much like you pay for your mortgage. The non-essential services are I want, but we have to ensure we can pay for them, like you would a vacation or a renovation on your home. Can we afford it? We need to find creative ways to bring in revenue streams to our city. We can look for grants from our federal and provincial partners, like the low-interest loan from the federal government for our wastewater treatment plants in Waterloo Region. Partnerships like these reduce our capital costs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you to the candidates. We'll move on to the next question, and I think this one's pretty ward-specific, and we'll keep it as simple as possible. Would you support an LRT Phase 2 plan that involves tracks running through Preston? And if I'm not mistaken, we're going to begin with Kevin Hebert.
The LRT through Preston. I'm surprised that came up tonight in our debate, and it's an important one. And my position, which I've already made clear at this point, is I would absolutely pause any further activity. We have a Phase 1 that has been going on, is still plagued with delays, but is supposedly going to actually operate towards the end of 2018. This is a multi-generational, multi-decade, life-changing, city-changing project. So I believe it is foolhardy not to look at the laboratory we have just to our north and see, will the ridership numbers show up close to what has been projected? What other issues show up? Will the vendor be able to deliver trains? So I would do nothing in Preston until that was resolved.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Now on to Cliff Eggleton.
LRT Preston. Wow, yes, this is a issue for sure. I've sat and talked to the Stop LRT group. We've had good discussions, and one of the options that the region has not put on the table is a separate route that does not go through the main intersections of Preston. That route, though, was not supported by the previous Liberal government, and the funding for this was based on the Liberal government's funding formula. So my suggestion is, now that we have a new government, a new provincial government, we find out, one, if they're going to even support this massive cost of the LRT, and if they are, push the other alternate route that does not go through Preston at the core areas and was a much more reasonable route. Thank you.
Now to Ryan O'Hagan.
My short answer to this is that yes, I do support it. I do support the King and Eagle stop. My longer answer to this is that I also met with the Stop the LRT Through Preston group, and while I didn't agree with everything they had to say, they brought up some really good points. They brought up concerns about expropriation costs. I went and spoke to the people that whose houses would be expropriated, and there are concerns there. One couple is in the middle of renovations, and is struggling to decide whether or not they should finish the renovations and just see their house knocked down, or do we stop the renovations but risk getting less money in expropriation costs because market value is lower on an unrenovated house. And these are issues that people are facing. So those things need to be addressed. There's also a huge concern with traffic and traffic congestion in the area. King and Eagle is already not the most exciting place to be at 4 o'clock on a Tuesday, but it's something that we need to recognize that development is going to happen. The LRT will bring a lot of benefit to the Preston BIA especially. It'll bring people into the core. It will help to connect Waterloo Region with Cambridge. And I think as a whole, this is something that we do need to support, but we do need to explore some of these concerns that are being brought up by local grassroots groups. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Now on to Peter Crystal.
Oh, yes. The LRT, long-going project. The LRT came up 4 years ago during the last election. It's moved forward 4 years here now. We've now been given proposals with revised routes, etc., for the LRT coming into Preston. Current council has looked at accepting about 80% of that with a 20% readjustment that needs to be done to suit and take into account the individuals and the property owners who are going to be directly affected by this particular route, as mentioned, possibly with expropriation of their properties. I will continue to explore and not only advocate for the citizens and those whose properties are directly affected by this project for a more acceptable community ground with the least amount of impact on the citizens and our infrastructure at King and Eagle Street.
Okay, thank you. Now to Stuart Allen.
The LRT through, starting from the top of Shantz Hill down and along King Street, looks like something more that you'd expect at Canada's Wonderland, with all the bridges that they're proposing to put over all the railway lines up Eagle Street. So you can go and get your quick thrill ride on the LRT through Preston. There are so many other routes that could be utilised. Their development is ongoing, especially along Maple Grove. And Maple Grove is in desperate need of an upgrade. It's one of the busiest corridors we have, and it's going to become busier. Right now, that area and land usage could accept an LRT route across Maple Grove and either down Speedsville or 24 Highway.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now on to Clifford Van Cleef.
Thank you very much. I believe the LRT is an investment for Cambridge. I am concerned, however, especially for the affected properties on the proposed route plans. I have met with a few of the interest groups that are seeking route changes. And again, I do not have all the answers at this point for the LRT coming into Preston. As ward councillor, it is the responsibility to communicate with constituents their concerns at the regional level and to relay that information back to residents from the region. The route selection is very complex. There are many provincial and regional requirements for route approval. We need a solution that will ensure the residents are impacted as little as possible and that the proposed route will deliver the expected benefits of an LRT. Thank you.
Okay, now to Donna Reed.
Thank you. Well, this is a question, of course, that we've been worried on for quite some time. And the big issue is, what are we going to do about that corner at Eagle and King? It's a busy corner. And can we find a way that we can actually put the LRT through there? I think it's important that the LRT touch Preston. The Preston BIA has certainly asked for that. They believe that it will help their businesses a great deal, and I concur with that. So I want to find a route. And the other thing we need to be mindful of is we need to know what that route is, and we need to settle on it before we can ask the province or the feds for any money. So although we're not going to get an LRT for who knows how long, We need to settle on the route at some time in the near future, so we have an opportunity then to go forward to the province and to the feds and say, support us in this important thing.
Okay, thank you, candidates. We'll now hand things back over to Greg for the next question.
I'm going to give you a fun question to deal with. So the provincial government comes along and gives you a grant of $2 million. It's just for your ward. It's your decision on what to do with the $2 million. What do you do?
And we'll begin things first with Cliff Eggleton.
Thank you. $2 million. $2 million in a municipal government does not go far. But if we had $2 million, I would like to see that invested in transitional housing and some housing for the homeless. I've been in talks with a few builders who are actually in our area who are doing container housing, building one-bedroom apartments out of containers. We're looking at approximately about $50,000 for a fully functional container home that has a washroom, heat, that could survive a Canadian winter. You know, we have city property that we could find and put some of these container homes there and start looking after some of our homeless and start tackling that locally in our own city and come up with some other ideas. Tiny houses is also an option, but there's a problem in Canada with our winter. So container houses seem to be the way to go. They're about $50,000 each, and we could get a few of those for $2 million.
Thank you. Now to Ryan O'Hagan.
I think Cliff touched on something important, which is that $2 million really isn't that much when working with a municipal budget of $300 million. Some of it that goes to the region, granted, but $300 million nonetheless. I think the best use of that $2 million is to actually put it into reducing our debt. The reason I say that is because over time, that money then increases in value. It's $2 million right now, but next year we've actually added to that amount the interest that we've saved by making an early payment. 2 years after that, it's continued to increase. That's money that we can continue to use in other more appropriate areas, like Cliff said, transitional housing, affordable housing, like additional treatment centers for people who use drugs. Like maintaining our trails better and increasing real estate use on our waterways. So to me, the best use for that money would be to invest it in debt that we currently owe, reduce the interest payments that we're making on a yearly basis, and continue to see that money add up over time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now to Peter Crystal.
$2 million to do as we see fit for our Ward 1. $2 million is just a small little drop in the bucket. It's not really going to go all that far. I've got two ideas that I would probably look at putting that money towards. As some of the other candidates have mentioned, affordable housing would be a nice place to put that and maybe help with getting a good start on some other affordable housing within the Ward 1 area and in Cambridge. Another option would be, as I've mentioned before, is to use those funds in tackling some of the infrastructure deficit that may be occurring in our ward with some of our infrastructure services. Thank you.
Thank you. Now on to Stuart Allen.
Yeah, as everybody's been saying, $2 million does not go very far these days, no matter which way you slice it. Affordable housing is a good option. But then again, most developers are in it for the money. They're not in it for the commitment to the community. They want to make a dollars and cent out of profit out of everything they build. We have already got affordable housing around that we could utilize and utilize that for upgrades and help some of those landlords that own property to give them the breaks to make it more feasible for affordable housing. There are so many issues that I've heard of with these landlords that do have affordable housing for their clients, and it would be nice if we made it easier for them to do the upgrades that's required. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now on to Clifford Van Cleef.
Thank you very much for the question. I'm actually glad this question was asked. I've thought about this for a number of years now, well, maybe within the last year. What I'd like to see with $2 million is I would look to build a working center, focusing on the needs of the vulnerable people in our downtown cores. The working center, much like the one in Kitchener, would work towards helping people navigate the path to a new job, to new housing, and to supports for mental health. It can be a direct link for sobriety and addiction services and a place to go during the day to get a cup of coffee, to hang out, to look at new avenues on where they can better themselves. We see all the issues we are experiencing today, and I believe a working center would alleviate the pressures felt in our downtown cores. The center could be expanded to offering skills to people who seek employment at local businesses that would be interested in partnering with the center. Again, I would build a working center with the $2 million. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now on to Donna Reed.
Thank you. Well, I would pick one section of the ward, and I'm picking Hesper, and that doesn't mean I don't appreciate Preston and Blair. I do. But this idea was brought up before, and it's not my original idea, but I love it. I would take Milling Street and I'd make it into a pedestrian mall. That's just right by the river. There's a building there that we already own. Turn it into a restaurant. Have it as this pedestrian mall to bring the people down. We have people there now that are living in the apartments. The lofts are being built. It would be a wonderful addition to the Hesper BIA. We could add the businesses then onto the BIA and expand it and make it an even better place for people to come and visit. And we would encourage the rest of the area to come and visit us and go back to the river.
Thank you. Now to Kevin Hebert.
Provided $2 million to do what I want to do with for the ward. Quite frankly, the first thing I would do is I would talk to the people in the ward, and I would consult and I would ask what they want to see. Sure, I've got great ideas. I bring leadership, but I don't know everything, and I'd really want to hear from the ward and from the residents, my neighbors. What do they feel the $2 million would be used for? As well, one of the ideas, since I am also one of my own neighbors, would be to carve that money up into seed dollars. You could grant 40 companies or small businesses, local people, entrepreneurs, $50,000 each to start something new, a social enterprise, a small business that will employ people in our community. So those are just two of the thoughts I have as to what I would do with your $2 million, and I will see you right after this taping.
Okay, thank you to the candidates. We'll now get into the closing statements portion of the program. And because we have a little bit more time here, we'll allow 90 seconds for a response. You don't have to use it, and I'll let you know when we're about 15 seconds towards that. So if you would like a little extra time, you can take it. And we'll begin those closing statements with Ryan O'Hagan.
If I am fortunate enough to be elected on October 22nd, I am going to strive to make Cambridge a more affordable, more accessible, and a safer community to live in. You know, we've got lots of great ideas, and we've got lots of great residents in Cambridge that have great ideas. We've got amazing grassroots organizations like, the Hesper Trails Awareness Group and the Save the Dam groups run by Lindsay Reed and her husband Josh and Carol Thorman respectively. And we need to give these organizations and these grassroots movements some space to actually work. You know, one of the things that I'd really like to see is for our city to start approaching other municipalities, places where they are already doing things that are solving some of these problems that we're seeing. And I'm not just willing to say that, I am actively participating in doing that. Excuse me. Last month, I reached out to a woman named Carol Adams in a little town called Kwinana, Australia. Their municipality has gone viral recently for having what looked like giant socks, nets on the culverts going into their waterways. As somebody who kayaks the Speed River pretty often, it's quite upsetting how often I see waste flowing downstream, especially after a storm. And these are simple solutions, cost-effective solutions that we can be implementing. We don't always need to go to the most nuclear option. And I think that reaching out to these grassroots organizations, reaching out to these community members, and reaching out to other municipalities where these things are working is a really key place to start. Thank you.
Thank you. Now to Cliff Eggleton.
Thank you. I want to thank Rogers for hosting the event tonight, and for my fellow candidates here for some interesting debate and some interesting ideas on how to change our ward and how our city council can change. I think we all know that Cambridge is facing some really tough issues, as we've discussed here tonight. And right now, if we decide to keep on the present course, we will have no change, and it will be the same after October 22nd. The policies and the decisions that our city council have made over the last 4 years are where we are today. So we have to remember that if you don't like how our city is run today, that is because of our members from our council for the last 4 years. The biggest risk of the city is accepting the same and moving forward. If we need some fundamental change, then we need to make sure that our local government has a new member sitting on there, and I put my name forward to be one of those new members. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now to Kevin Hebert.
My fellow voters in Ward 1, the last hour sure contained a lot of words, didn't it? As you look at the people on the stage with me, you might feel overwhelmed. However, can I choose? Well, this October, you do in fact have a very important choice to make. Whether or not you even vote, someone will be elected to represent you in Ward 1. So I hope you vote and make your voice heard. If you believe that increasing property taxes by almost 6% a year, every year, 2018, 2019, 2020, which is well above the current rate of inflation, then you can support that vision by returning the incumbent to power. If you believe that faded ribbons and boarded up windows and doors is the best we can get after 7 years of discussions with the owner of the Preston Springs Hotel, you should consider re-electing the current council. On the other hand, if you want to have a councillor that will listen to you, that will advocate for you, that will bring a customer service attitude to the job, and that will be accountable to the community and to you, then I ask that you vote for me, Kevin Hebert, because you matter. To quote the esteemed Corey Taylor, walk with me, just like we should have done right from the start.
Thank you. Now on to Donna Reed.
Thank you. Now it is your turn to tell me what is important to you. What can I do to help you? Tell me what I can do to encourage business, to build affordable housing, to allow sustainable growth, to preserve heritage, to ease traffic congestion, to provide recreational opportunities, to support arts and culture, and to build an innovative, great city. No one can do this alone. I need you to engage with the city and with the council and with me. I need you to vote. Your voice will enable me to use my experience and knowledge and skills toward the well-being of all residents. The important services the city provides must be balanced between your needs and the ability of the taxpayer to bear the cost. It is frustrating to try and answer a budget question in 1 minute, I tell you. As a longtime believer in collaborative decision-making, I call on you, your residents, to voice your opinion. I will listen. Vote Donna Reed for Ward 1 Councillor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now on to Clifford Van Cleef.
Thank you very much, Jeff. And thank you to everyone who has tuned in to today's debate. This election is too important to not vote. City Council is your voice on how the city moves forward, and I encourage you to vote. This hour has gone by so incredibly fast, and we covered some very complex issues that cannot be solved in a debate or by one individual. Instead, the issues, or as I call them, the opportunities for solutions, must be approached with the help of multi-level governments and community engagements. I encourage you to visit my website, cliffordforcouncil.ca, to read up on my vision for the future of Cambridge. I am committed to work with future council and mayor for the solutions on such items as affordable housing, the opioid crisis, transportation, infrastructure, and our city budget. I am a proven business leader. I am a proven community leader. And as ward councillor, I will represent Ward 1 at the City of Cambridge with the same values and the same principles I hold myself accountable to. On October 22nd, I ask for your support and vote for me, Clifford Van Cleef. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now on to Stuart Allen.
Yes, let me first apologize for my nervousness. I was never this nervous as a peace officer working here in Canada or as a member of a counter-terrorism unit in the UK. This is, I find, very stressful. But I'm prepared to listen to anyone that wants to talk to me. That's the one thing that we don't seem to have at council right now, is the willingness to listen. They give you lip service and they never get back to you. Or they give you an excuse for another department. Oh, it's always somebody else. There's lots of things that we can do. We talk about budgets. We don't have to spend it if it's in the budget, if we can save it. A budget is there is only as a guide. It doesn't have to be spent. It seems to be that if it's a budget line, it must be spent. No, we don't have to spend it. I've worked on national boards with Skate Canada. I represented over 27,000 members in my one region. I know what a budget is. I've run national competitions and I can work within them and reduce them, which I have done repeatedly. I've also been in business for over 36 years. I deal with national and international companies and I represent them here in Canada. So vote for Stuart Allen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we're finish off with Peter Crystal.
Thank you, Connie. I'd like to thank Rogers for hosting this event tonight and to the people for taking the time to listen to the candidates here today. Cambridge is not without its ailments and growing pains. Moving forward into the future, and only together can we make a change. Your vote does make a difference. In closing, you and the rest of the citizens of Cambridge deserve to live in an affordable, safe city with the best services and resources available. I bring to you a fresh voice and a new point of view moving forward together. I would love the opportunity to fight for the practical solutions to benefit the citizens of Cambridge. I would be humbled and honored to work for you. On October 22, vote Peter Crystal, your crystal clear choice.
Okay, thank you once again to the candidates, all 7 of you. You guys all spoke and represented yourself very well. I'd also like to thank my colleague, Greg DeRocher, for preparing the questions, which again spurred on such a great conversation. I understand that a minute is hard to answer a lot of those questions, but you all did a great job. Make sure to watch Rogers TV on the night of October 22nd for up-to-the-minute local results. Thanks for watching, and good night.